Pursued by roughnecks and rubes in Fletch Lives. Peter Weller and Richard Crenna are scientists trapped on the ocean floor in Leviathan. And Bernadette Peters is a victim of Manhattan trendsetters in Slaves of New York. It's all coming up next on Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, my God, are you all right?
Oh, I was aiming to fix that today. How do you do? I be Calculus Entropy. You be Mr. and Mrs. Fletcher?
I be Fletch.
Chevy Chase returns as investigative reporter I Am Fletcher, trying to find out who wants his inherited southern estate in the comedy Fletch Lives. It's one of 5 new films we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is Fletch Lives, a sequel to the 1985 comedy with Chevy Chase once again playing a Los Angeles newspaper reporter who sort of floats above the action, delivering sardonic wisecracks that sort of worked in the original film but doesn't work this time. One of the reasons is that Fletch Lives doesn't have a plot so much as a living, breathing museum of exhausted old movie cliches. The film opens with Fletch inheriting a Louisiana mansion, that's cliche 1, from a long-lost aunt, cliche 2. When he turns up, the mansion is already guarded by cliche 3, a faithful servant played by Cleavon Little.
The loyal sons of the white race will not allow any
Friends of yours?
alien
Nothing to me.
to invade our beloved land. Scum! Go back to where you belong. Get it together. Scum! Go back to where you
Go home! Scum! Pigs! Sorry I'm late. Who goes there? Henry Himmler. What Cliven claimed you? California Cliven, Cucamonga. California? Yeah, I was just passing through town and looking for something to do this evening. There was nothing going on at the Rotary Club. I heard about this.
And the Ku Klux Klan, of course, cliche 4. If those cliches don't satisfy, how about number 5, a sexy Southern belle played by Julianne Phillips.
You better get cleaned up.
Yeah, particularly in my mind.
And, of course, number 6 in every Southern movie, a dumb deputy sheriff.
What the hell are you doing here? It's a restricted area. Didn't you see the sign?
Signs? Signs? That's all I see is signs. Look at this. Stressed out dormants on the windows, walls that are deplaning to an alarming degree.
Deplaning?
This house is obviously infested with reticularis mariacomos.
Well, what's that?
What's what?
Well,
Reticulus. See, you can't even say it yourself.
And number 7, the stereotype sadistic jailhouse bully.
A little gamey in here. Not much ventilation, huh? How's the chow? You know, you really shouldn't wear so much eye makeup. It makes you look cheap.
Chevy Chase can be a very funny actor, and he was last summer in a movie called Funny Farm, but in Fletch Lives, he seems to be deliberately trying to hold the action at arm's length. His character never seems involved, never cares, never has anything but a sardonic one-liner to say, even when he wakes up with a dead body beside him of a woman he made love to last night. And the plot involving TV evangelists, that's cliche number 8 or 9, evil polluters, that's number 10, I guess. It's so absolutely routine and so recycled that maybe it's no wonder Chevy Chase wanted to seem more bemused than interested while he was acting in this movie.
It's a big disappointment. I happen to like the first Fletch picture. I thought it was one of some of his best work in a long time. He sort of came out of a slump playing a fairly bright guy, and he was in peril. There was a drug deal going down, if I recall, on the beach or something like that. And it was a pretty exciting story, and yet he was funny within it. It was a tough little mix. This thing is just Joke City. He just walks through, tosses off one-liners, and they're really not very funny. And the story is completely lost behind him. I really thought it was sort of a walkthrough picture.
Both movies were directed by the same man, Michael Ritchie,
yeah.
And this movie is a real letdown from the other one. You know,
there's no
one of the
script
things
here.
no, there isn't a script, and there's no inspiration either. One of the things Chevy Chase needs, I think, is strong direction. And when he gets it from a director like George Roy Hill, who made him perform and play a character in Funny Farm, then he's good. But too often he just wants to be in a movie as if he's guesting on a talk show, you know. And it's his job to kind of look at all the other characters and their funny comments and their strange behavior and make wisecracks about them. He's got to be willing to be in the movie if we're going to be willing to be interested in it.
I also think he needs a script. I mean, it's funny to play off of it, but he needs some kind of basis. Our next film is called Slaves of New York. It's based on the best-selling short story collection by Tama Janowitz about a bunch of young women who are, in effect, she says, slaves to the young men they live with in Manhattan. The film trashes the contemporary art scene in New York City with everyone on the make, everyone trying to use someone to get represented by a successful dealer. For example, there's Bernadette Peters, who lives with a successful young artist who pays more attention to another young woman.
Why can't you paint those missing paintings over again?
When would I have time to do it between now and next week?
Don't you have an assistant who could help?
I could probably help.
You can't even glue a feather on right.
Well, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah? Maybe. Are you sure? I mean, we'd have to work all night.
At a hair salon, Peters gives a lecture about being used by men to a character played by Tama Janowitz herself, the author of this story.
I thought I'd live with him and then fly up to teach one day a week in Boston, and maybe I'd meet somebody I like better than Bruce in New York.
Abby, I'm telling you, don't do it. In the old days, marriages were arranged by the parents, and you could end up with a jerk, but at least you had the security of marriage. No one can dump you out on the street. In today's world, it's a slave system. You live with this guy in New York, you'll be a slave.
Peters meets another man, and they flirt with an affair, even though he's living with someone else.
How's your relationship?
It's fine. Fine. There's one small problem. We fight all the time. That's her apartment.
And that's one of the big issues in New York City, according to this film. Who has the apartment? An apartment is power, and Slaves of New York is about the power games played out by a lot of boring people, unfortunately. Bernadette Peters is so recognizable as a star that she really sticks out of this story. I would have preferred an unknown in her role. I also would have preferred a film that was a little tougher. There are too many jokes here, when the real world of exploitation, I think, is much more messy, as Martin Scorsese showed us in his film from New York Stories called Life's Lessons. This is pretty lightweight material.
If lightweight is hardly the word for it, it floats right out of the theater. One of the things that shocked me is that they didn't have the nerve or the imagination to make these people a little smarter than they were.
I agree with you.
Anyone as stupid as every character in this movie would not be able to survive in a city like New York for more than 5 minutes. These people, apart from their buzzwords and their buzz clothing and their buzz apartments and their buzz parties, these people have no existence at all. They're not really involved in anything. It's just utter narcissism. And one of the worst punishments during watching this movie is to listen to the conversation. These people have no conversation, no ideas, no words, no ways to express themselves. Yeah. It's one of the most punishing movies I've seen in a long time.
If the film had that as a goal, to take that dark of a look at the characters and show how empty they were, it would be a much more exciting film. The Scorsese picture that I referred to, the little short one from New York Stories, that is a hard look at an artist and an artist's assistant and the way he manipulates people. This film is completely flimsy by contrast with it, and I was very surprised. I thought there would be a harder edge to it.
I did too. When we come back, Leviathan, about a deadly discovery on the ocean floor.
The Russians deliberately sank that ship to protect themselves. Maybe to protect us all.
Come on, Dad. There she is, just like I dreamed. Why are you going so slow? Cinderella! Now I can have her for my very own.
For a limited time, the story no child should be without. Walt Disney's Cinderella on video cassette.
Uh-oh. I think we waited too long. The last one looks like it's gone. Cinderella's forever, it's true. Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo.
Great, Ray. That's a wrap.
Huh?
sweet.
This is the way nature intended it to be. Simple, pure, perfect. This is turkey at its very best. Tender, juicy turkey parts, fresh from the farm. The farm by the bridge that shades the brook. Shady Brook Farms. In this whole world, there is no better turkey.
Our next movie is named Leviathan, and it takes place on the floor of the Atlantic Ocean in a deep-sea mining station where the workers combine the duties of geologists and astronauts. They are nearing the end of a 90-day tour of duty when one day one of the miners wanders into an area of the ocean floor that they haven't explored yet, and he discovers there the rusting hulk of a gigantic Russian ship named Leviathan.
I need more light on this, sir.
Six-pack? You hear that? We need more light. Six-pack? Six-pack?
All right, look. Cable.
And when he falls off the edge, he discovers that ship, abandoned on the ocean floor. It turns out to contain a deadly life form that can attach itself to human beings, mutating them into sea monsters. Richard Crenna is the doctor in charge of analyzing this bizarre threat, and Peter Weller is the mission commander.
It has all the characteristics of deep-sea marine life. Scales, gills, regeneration.
The mutating genes seemingly kill two of the crew members, but as their body bags are being prepared to be ejected into the sea, the crew gets a nasty surprise.
Hey, I feel something.
What are you talking about?
They're dead. Wait a minute.
I feel something, too.
Let's go.
Somebody's alive in here.
Come on, come on, come on.
All right, come on, let's flush it, Doctor.
What do you mean flush it? The human beings we're talking about.
Everyone's alive.
Over the silence. How about
Let's do it,
Oh,
Doctor.
my God, they're alive.
Get it up.
Let's have a look.
As the mutant monster spreads its tentacles throughout the ship, panic spreads among the crew. I always love these monster on the loose scenes where it turns out that there are an enormous number of things that can go wrong, break, leak, and spout steam before the whole operation comes to a halt, just like they have a whole built-in system of pipes that can burst. From looking at those scenes, you can see that Leviathan is a combination of Alien and The Thing, crew members and scientists inexorably transformed into monsters, one at a time. And I guess the characters in Leviathan, of course, didn't see those earlier movies because they make exactly the same mistake, even though they know that this creature only attacks people when they're alone. Of course, naturally, they go off alone at exactly the wrong time. Right. They'll do it every time. Leviathan is not in the class of Alien, but it is an effective thriller, and there were some times when it got to me. I was entertained by it. The movie does a good job of creating a believable and authentic-looking undersea station, although the sea monster itself, designed by Stan Winston, is just a recycled version of creatures he's already done, and it's sort of disappointing.
I wasn't particularly captivated by the story because I had obviously seen it before, seen it many times before. I ended up noticing the people. I mean, my mind got distracted, and I started to look at Amanda Pays, who was one of the assistants there. And I spent most of the movie seeing how tall she was, when she's quite short. I was surprised. Second, I saw her walking around with her shoulders like this. It almost seems like she was afraid of how beautiful she is, or didn't want to be seen as how beautiful she really is on screen. And I just watched her. I also watched Peter Weller try and enliven a pretty dead story by throwing off wisecracks. He's a very interesting actor to watch. He's got some of the James Woods life in him. But other than that, I mean, it was just like I was watching two people who I really enjoy trapped in a familiar story.
I enjoy the way what Weller does is always remains extremely cool when another actor would have exploded at some of those moments. But I was not able to detach myself in the way that you did. I did get involved in the fact that they're under all this pressure. You hear the sea station creaking and moaning under the enormous weight of the water. I thought the special effects outside when they're walking down the ocean floor and where they get lost in the jungle of sea worms. I thought that was a very good scene, and I enjoyed stuff like that.
I like the sea worm sequence.
I found it much more memorable than Amanda Pays' shoulders.
No, that's the thing about Amanda Pays. She's quite memorable. Coming up next, Rooftops, a new film about gangs and dancing in the ghettos of New York from the co-director of West Side Story.
Freedom to travel and to protest.
The most beautiful colors under the sun live in Puerto Rico.
See the colors of Puerto Rico. See the colors everywhere.
See
Isn't it romantic?
Here is some cash, and your new car will be ready by noon.
We'll be on a plane to China in an hour.
Our Beijing office could send it to your hotel.
Oh.
Where are you staying?
And this arrived for you, Mr. Klein.
Thank you.
How will you settle your account?
American Express.
Isn't it romantic?
Helping in ways that no one else can.
Our next film is called Rooftops and was directed by Robert Wise, who 27 years ago won an Oscar with Jerome Robbins for co-directing West Side Story. This is sort of an update of that classic story, Romeo and Juliet in the gang-filled streets of New York. Dancing is prominent here, too, especially a martial arts-influenced dance called the capoeira. A nice young man named T leads his pal in dancing on the rooftops.
Let's see what you can do, homeboy. Gonna scream from the rooftops. From the rooftop of New York City.
The object of T's affection is a girl from across town named Alana, played by Troy Byer. T, played by Jason Gedrick, romances her on his motorcycle.
So, how much do I owe you?
$13 even.
Only got a token. So, what do we do?
Gang fights, of course, get in the way as the neighborhood drug dealers pick on T's diminutive friend named Squeak.
Hey! Get off of me, my little man. Yeah, get him, Jake. Go now, Jake. Get off. Damn it, get off. Yeah, Jake.
And one of his big tricks, in addition to kicking like that, is manipulating people to walk across certain parts of the rooftops that he knows are weak, and they do not for some reason, and then they fall to their destruction. Rooftops offer some fresh, appealing faces in an all-too-familiar story. Compared with West Side Story and Dirty Dancing, it comes up short because the film has a little more depth than a music video. It could have worked if the lead characters had been given more time to talk to each other. They are an appealing couple, the young man and the young woman. We just don't spend enough time with them.
The whole movie is a fairy tale, a fantasy, that probably would have worked better if it had just gone ahead and declared itself as a musical. I mean, there are a lot of dance numbers in it, and this dance, which was borrowed from Brazil, and there's a choreography credit in the movie, is not a dance that people really do use in place of fighting in the ghetto. Believe it or not, in the ghetto, especially when they're fighting for territory over crack, they stab each other and they shoot each other. They don't do a Brazilian dance to see who is symbolically tougher than somebody else. So that was silly. And as far as the plot is concerned, you're right, it's all too familiar. This is allegedly the generation that has grown up watching more television and more movies than any other generation in human history. So why does Hollywood continue to make movies as if its audience had never seen a film before? Why not something original here?
Well, the problem is that these kids have nothing to do. I mean, when they're just sitting around dancing, it doesn't seem, as you say, it doesn't seem real. I mean, in any way, shape, or form. You're dealing with a very real problem when you're talking about drug dealing. So as we watch it, I just saw the revival on Broadway of Jerome Robbins' Broadway, and they do the dance sequences from West Side Story. That is so far out and so stylized and so magnificent that you have to, you're right, you have to go either way out or go very real.
Yeah, this movie is neither fish nor fowl. It's not a real movie, and it's not a fantasy either. When we come back, Police Academy 6. Also not a real movie, also not a fantasy. It's subtitled City Under Siege.
Now, who wants to go one-on-one?
Why would anyone feed a little baby a grown-up food he may not be ready for? It's a good question, even for this baby. Instead of adult dog food, feed him puppy food. Purina Puppy Chow brand puppy food. Puppy Chow gives puppies the extra nutrition they need. Special nutrition for a puppy's growing body. Babies need baby food. Both babies do. Doesn't your baby deserve Puppy Chow?
Walt Disney Pictures presents The Rescuers, two little heroes up against the wicked Madame Medusa. It's dynamite Disney fun on land, on sea, and in the air. Only in theaters, it's a Walt Disney classic, The Rescuers, rated G. Now playing at a theater near you.
I've always loved to be best in anything I've tried, and the popcorn's been a real challenge.
Seems to me you've been doing one thing your whole life, Grandpa, and going at it pretty hard.
This popcorn was not an accident. It took years and years. Our popcorn is the lightest and fluffiest on the market.
I agree. Nice job.
In the beginning, when God created the world, he had a lot of weird and wonderful things left over. What'll I do with these, he thought. I know, I'll stick them all down under, he said. In Australia, the land of wonder. So he gave us thousands of miles of fantastic coral reef. And the air's so clean, you can't even see it. One of the world's greatest rock gardens, with a nice little Barbie area. Of course, he had a sense of humour with our wildlife. Like the famous giant hopping mouse. And the biggest chickens you've ever seen. No wonder they call this the lucky country. You can find out for yourself by phoning toll-free for a free copy of the Aussie Holiday Book. The book's good enough to make into a movie. Want to be in it?
Come and say g'day.
Our next movie is number 6 in the seemingly endless series of Police Academy movies. This one, number 6, subtitled City Under Siege. And you know, it's never too late to learn on this job, Gene. If we thought the first Police Academy movie was kind of dumb, we hadn't seen anything yet.
I thought it was very dumb.
Very dumb. Steve Guttenberg has retired from the series, but most of the other regulars are back, including G.W. Bailey as Captain Harris, who's constantly the butt of practical jokes.
Captain Harris, the mayor wants to see you as soon as possible.
The mayor would like to see me.
Well, don't keep him waiting.
Excuse me.
On the trail of the bad guys, Michael Winslow does a robot imitation.
What the hell are you made of?
Target human. Mission destroyed.
Yeah, Bruce Mailer is a hapless officer factor who can't even look at something without breaking it.
Hi! Oh, Vern! Hi, Tower! Oh, hello. How do you... whoops!
I went to see Police Academy 6 on a Saturday matinee with a lot of little kids in the audience, and about halfway through the movie, I began to feel a certain nostalgia. I realized I was remembering the Saturday afternoons when I was a kid and I used to go to the Bowery Boys or Abbott and Costello movies. The Police Academy movies are sort of in the same tradition, dumb, but cheerfully dumb, with a lot of goofy slapstick and silly sight gags. They're aimed at a young audience. They're made for a young audience. In their own way, they succeed in creating dim-witted comedy in the Bowery Boys tradition. It's just that I'm not one of those little kids anymore. This movie is not made to be seen by, or maybe even to be reviewed by, adults.
Well, I can only tell you, I won't review the audience, except to say that I saw it late night, and there were adults in the theater. Looking at the picture, I was astonished, as I have been throughout the series, at just how stupid the films are. I don't think they're as good as Abbott and Costello, but I just don't laugh. I think they're kind of cheap. I think that they hold shots that hold them far too long, where there should be, I suppose, maybe they're waiting for a laugh. I don't find it myself filling it with laughs. This movie came out, the first one came out the same time as The Right Stuff. I thought The Right Stuff was going to be a smash hit, and I've always associated the Police Academy series with The Right Stuff. They came out at roughly the same time. This one went to the moon. Right Stuff didn't. Yeah. And
I'm just trying to categorize this movie, kind of a generic approach to film criticism. Sure, none of them are as good as Abbott and Costello, but they're kind of on the level of the Bowery Boys. And one footnote that we have to put in here. On this show, we have constantly over the years referred to the fruit cart scene, the obligatory scene in a chase where the car races onto the sidewalk and knocks over a fruit stand and races away, and the fruit vendor is shaking his head at the departing car. In this scene, there is a tribute to our criticism. There's Gene and Roger's fruit stand, and the big, enormous, big foot truck with the 20-foot wheels does not run over it. And for that, I suppose we're supposed to be grateful, but you know, I'm not really that grateful. I don't know how you feel, but...
I wasn't grateful. I mean, it was amusing, but that's about the only smile I had in the whole film. Now let's recap our reactions to the movies on this show. 2 thumbs down for Fletch Lives, a disappointing sequel with Chevy Chase taking a walk through a very silly, meaningless movie. 2 more downturned thumbs for Slaves of New York, an empty-headed film about the New York art scene that lacks the real energy of people trying to survive and thrive in New York City. A split on Leviathan, the familiar sea monster tale. Roger got involved with the story. I noticed mostly the actors just as people. We both were disappointed with Rooftops, a dance-filled New York fairy tale about young people coping with drugs. It was neither fact nor fancy. And two more downturned thumbs for Police Academy 6, City Under Siege. The amazing series continues, amazing because neither one of us find it very funny. And so I liked nothing this week.
Okay, out of 10 possible votes, we have 9 downturned thumbs, and mine is up, but not way up, for Leviathan. So
not a strong week. Before the Oscars, it's usually kind of dead.
Answer is wait till next week or go to see last week's movies. We'll be back next week with a show called Buried Video Treasures. Movies you might have missed in movie theaters, but here's your chance to see them on home video. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Raisinets and Goobers are playing everywhere, starring plump, juicy raisins and great golden peanuts. Both now feature creamy Nestle milk chocolate. Now you can have a California raisin singer of your own. This limited offer is just 99 cents plus proof of purchase. Visit your local store for details. Tums. When you have heartburn, acid indigestion, or sour stomach, it's Tum-Ta-Dum-Tum Tums. Use only as directed. Tappan SureCook Space Saver Microwave is perfect for kitchens where space is at a premium. Tap and touch solid state controls and automatic temperature probe furnished by Tappan.